Hi, my name is Jeff Robinson, and I'll be talking about prompt number 2 that's discussing media and its role within women in politics. So I've identified 3 different ways in which they negatively influence, 2 positive influences, as well as 3 ways that I would advise a woman seeking office. So the first way that it negatively impacts women is through gendered stereotypes. So Friedkin and Kenny, they describe these stereotypes as women, according to the evidence, are more likely to be viewed as caring, nurturing, affectionate, helpful, kind, sympathetic, emotional, gentle, and soft-spoken. Men, in comparison, are seen as embodying an agent dimension, displaying more assertive and controlling demeanor. So despite the attempts of women candidates to try and counter these gender stereotypes, the media still focuses instead on excessive coverage of women candidates' appearance, use of their first name, emphasis on their newness, and their family relationships that men just don't experience. So another way that they negatively impact women is through their coverage. So I quote here from Friedkin and Kenny, females, in contrast to their male colleagues, are violating prescriptive stereotypes by simply being U.S. senators. Therefore, female senators may be treated more harshly by the press, and women receive more critical coverage than their male counterparts. Now, this proposition supposes that politics is a man's profession, and a woman's very presence attracts different behavior. So another way that the media negatively impacts women are through the double bind scenarios. So those are described as being a combination of 2 sets of barriers result in a particular set of double binds, or lose-lose scenarios which confront women, either being too young, too old, experience and change, connectedness or independence, and silence and shame. So again, these are lose-lose scenarios. Rebecca Stafford complains that if you're too tough, you're considered to be nasty and mean, and if you're not tough, then you're considered to be too emotional. So again, the media kind of locks female candidates within these double bind scenarios that male competitors won't face. So 2 positive ways that the media can benefit women. Women are typically seen as agents of change, and we also learn that negative ad campaigns are less successful when used against women, especially when initiated from male aggressors. Friedkin, Kenny, and Woodall point this out, and they also describe the backlashing effect, where it negatively impacts the male aggressor while it has little to no effect on females. So I quote here, political messages launched against women candidates may be viewed as unfair because women are seen as less likely to have provoked negative attacks and may be seen as less likely to respond to these messages. So let's see, another benefit that women might have, they're viewed as agents of change. So Lawless and Fox describe Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice as well as Rhode Island Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Robert as repeatedly being questioned about their political ambition. So they point out, widespread gender bias no longer prevents women from engaging as viable or emerging as viable prospective candidates even at the presidential level. So the media has the opportunity to highlight the successes of female politicians, and let's see here, the Washington Post highlights this, and they say, women ruled the ballot boxes on Tuesday night. For the first time in history, women will hold 20 seats, a record number from the current 17 in the U.S. Senate. So simply just by highlighting these successes, it might encourage more female candidates to actually emerge and become more politically ambitious. So the recommendations that I would give to a female candidate are a balanced appearance, the ability to harness poise and to maintain poise when confronted with blatant sexism, and emphasize masculine qualities. You'll notice 2 of these are actually double bind scenarios, but they can be successfully navigated. For instance, with appearance in Angela Merkel's chancellorship campaign, she was described as a gray mouse, and with most notably with Eastern attire. So I quote, "The extent that she was perceived as being more Western, she was perceived as being more competent." So just being very professional, not overly flashy, because that might be a point of contention. However, just playing the role might make yourself more relatable and seem more legitimate for a wide variety of voters, as well as masculine. That is a double-bind scenario. However, I quote, "Women candidates need to strike a delicate balance between being too tough and meeting societal expectations of warmth and femininity. So it's advantageous for females to project competence with masculine topics in order to appeal to a more moderate crowd of voters, as females are commonly viewed as being more communal in nature, so people may mistakenly consider them from being more left, even if they're not." Now, lastly, I would advise the candidate to reconcile with blatant sexism before starting their campaign, because there's a high probability it'll be encountered. So by engaging with sexist remarks, it opens candidates up to criticisms from a host of sources such as media, your opponents, and voters might just question your ability to effectively operate under pressure. So an increased emphasis on women's emotions remains of interest. Murray points this out. So the ability to just remain poised is instrumental, because you want to keep the media on your side and you don't want too much negative press. So anyway, these are the points that I've identified, and I hope you liked my video.